So let's kick things off with She-Hulk. Now, Carlos, through Agents of Fandom, you wrote an amazing article on She-Hulk before the finale happened, which I think is a real great setup because I think the thing everyone wants to talk about when it comes to She-Hulk is the finale. So just to lead us up to there, tell us about this article you wrote and what your mindset was going into this.
Yeah, sure. So I'm glad it posted before the finale because it made me look a little smarter. The article basically was about how She-Hulk, the real big bad of She-Hulk, the villain of the series, were the real life toxic dudes on Twitter and in the comments of every forum, Reddit and everything. And basically my article was just about how they've been there the whole time. Like, this show predicted everything they were going to say along the way, and even used some of the real life comments from even when they just announced the show was coming out. They took some of those comments out of Instagram and used them, reworked them, and put them in the show. They predicted what the fanboys were going to say, and I predicted that they were going to be the real villains. And then it ended up basically being exactly that. So,
yeah, it makes you wonder, were they inspired by the She-Hulk announcement, or were they just okay, this is how they're going to react because this is how that specific toxic part of the fandom react to most female superheroes? Captain Marvel is a real great example. Now, I'm not here to call it a masterpiece by any means because I remember saying when Captain Marvel came out, I said, you know what? It's one of the most average and middle-of-the-road Marvel films, and that's a quality. It's not putting things up too high above anyone else. It's not putting it too below. This is what you get So it's you can't complain about either end of the spectrum when it's that middle of the road, I feel. But the fanboys were going real in on that film. And it's I remember just thinking it's a bit overkill, guys. It's definitely not that. And yeah, I think She-Hulk did a great job at tackling this. Don't you think?
Oh, I mean, absolutely. Down to the points where, when Wong would show up in the show and Jen would look at the camera and say, well, that gives us some Twitter armor for the week because Wong was here. And it's it's exactly what it did. That's exactly how it worked. Or when they would end an episode teasing Daredevil, and then the next episode had no Daredevil whatsoever. And Jen is like, yeah, I know you're expecting something else, but this is a wedding episode because I said so. It was perfect. Every step of the way, they knew exactly what the discourse was going to be online, and they were ready for it. The entire series was shifting around what they knew that the discourse was going to be from the toxic swath of the Marvel fandom.
Yeah, and they know also what they like and what they don't like. So they've actually used characters like Daredevil, I think, to sort of protect themselves along the way.
Yeah.
And find a balance, which I think was pretty interesting. Let's talk. I want to keep on the. You know what? We'll talk about Daredevil when we come to Daredevil. Let's keep on the finale though, because I've got to be honest. I'm still a little split on the execution of it.
Okay.
I still haven't fully formed my opinion, to be honest, because on one hand, I'm okay, my experience watching it was crazy. And I feel like if you can get an emotional reaction out of me from anything on the spectrum, you're doing something right. And I was there with Jen when she's like, this can't be happening. This episode's ended and wait, where's this guy coming from? And the second Hulk came through the roof, I was just okay, what is going on? Because there's no way they've set up him going to Sakaar and possibly teasing World War Hulk or whatever, just to have him come out of nowhere. This is really bad, blockbuster movie writing, which a lot of films do. But even I know, these writers are too smart to do that because the writing has been pretty smart throughout this whole show. And what is happening? And then they finally break the fourth wall. It's on Disney Plus, and I'm here oh, this is a funny gag. Yeah. Then the gag continues, and I'm okay, it's getting long. Like they got to get back to the episode, right? They got to get back to the big finale, fighting Abomination and Hulk and everybody, and it keeps going. And then she's looking for. They get to the writers' room, which I thought was kind of cool. They get to Kevin, and the receptionist, who apparently is a real receptionist at Marvel Studios.
Yeah,
which is it's like they broke the fourth wall,
right.
But like it keeps going. I'm like, this can't be the episode, is it? This is not how you do a finale, and it keeps going. And then at one point, I'm like, oh, this is the finale, and I think that was designed. Like they wanted to take you on that journey of figuring all that out. But by the end of it, I'm kind of like, it's funny the way they play with fan expectations.
Yeah.
They got me. I got to say they got me. but part of me, there's a little part of me that's like disappointed, because it's like, you promised me a showdown between Hulk and Abomination, and you took that away from me. Just like you promised me a hallway fight with Daredevil, and then you took that away from me for a gag as well. So part of me feels a little betrayed, but I understand also as a writer, you want to service the whole story. You want to service the character. So they did it with a wink. They kind of did it. It kind of felt a little mean-spirited almost. but I've got to say, sorry to wrap up this rant, because you can tell I'm still formulating appealing. What I will say is, for a show that has such strong feminine themes, it has massive balls. Like it's one of the most ballsy projects, not in the MCU, but just like even in that episode to do all that. And I really do appreciate seeing something unique and original and different. Even if I'm a little bit disappointed, I appreciate seeing something new.
Okay, so I can agree with that to an extent. Some of the execution wasn't perfect. But the concept, I think, is there. Throughout the series, whenever the superheroing would happen, I would get kind of bummed, because I was like, that wasn't like, I was having a good time with Jen in court, with Jen going on dates, and then she gets like jumped by 4 guys. I was like, I mean, I get it. It's a superhero show. Like, I understand it's got to happen. That always kind of was the drag on the episode. And when they got to I forget which episode, it's the wedding episode where Josh sends a text saying, I took her, basically the emoji say, I took her blood, essentially. I was there like,
super creepy thing to do. Yeah,
absolutely. But also, how did you take her blood? And so I was sitting there like, this, I don't understand how he did. How do you sneakily take someone's blood? So to me, it just felt like bad writing, and Marvel, the not so well kept secret is the Marvel Disney Plus shows haven't always been the best at writing. Like they just, some of his stuff feels really rushed, and like you're just going to have to go with this to get to the finale. And that's why it wasn't until Hulk that you were like, wait, this isn't believable anymore, because every other, except for the Loki finale, every other MCU Disney Plus finale has been, and then all of the action figures get together and we crash them together, and this one's punching that one, and now this one's going to be somewhere that it is impossible that they have gotten to in this. Like the Hawkeye finale is a perfect example. How did Kingpin get from point A to point B? Where like things like that. How did Echo just like show up randomly and get to exactly where she needed to be? None of it makes sense, but it's all happening in such a rush and such a cacophony that you're going along with it. And it isn't until maybe after the episode that you're like, well, none of that makes sense actually. And She-Hulk was the reason I wrote in my article, I fully expected them to MCU. I fully expected it to be like, and here's the leader, or here's whatever villain.
Yeah, same.
And I put that in the article. Whichever villain they give us, the real villain was these dude bros. And I was so happy to find out that no, actually the villain they're giving us was the dude bros. It was them. It was them all along. So I respect the breaking the fourth wall to get out of bad writing and going to the writers and being like, is this not maybe a derivative plot?
Yeah.
I dug all of that. And then making the final case to Kevin that like not every story has to be world ending stakes. not everything, sometimes it can just be a personal story that is small in scale. Like I think, going back through the MCU series, that's what kind of, if anything was wrong with Miss Marvel, it was the stuff about the other realm and how that was going to destroy our realm. Like everything about the family and this, all of that was amazing. And then there was this like chunk that they almost felt like they were forced to put in there because comic books. And I think Jen saying that to Kevin, just being like, look, this isn't my story. My story isn't world ending stakes. It's this very small thing. I was totally on board for that.
It makes me think, there was a comment from Mark Ruffalo on like the red carpet for the premiere where he's like, there won't be an Avengers without She-Hulk. But like after seeing the finale, it's like, I kind of don't want to see She-Hulk in the Avengers because the whole point of the finale is I don't want to fight people all the time. It doesn't always have to be a big blue light coming from the sky. And maybe I don't know, unless they have some big character moment for her or something. If they had her, fighting Kang the Conqueror, it would feel like it would undo that finale. Yeah. I'm sure Marvel will do it anyways because action figures and whatever, but
right,
we'll see.
Yeah, we need the Avengers costume gen action figure. Yeah, the time heist costume.
Yeah. So I have a hot take.
Okay.
I want to get your reaction. Okay.
Okay.
So I think She-Hulk was great. But what stops it from being amazing is I have this spoilers for my thoughts on Werewolf of the Night as well, but I have this problem with Marvel right now where they keep promising us diving into new genres and they never fully commit. So She-Hulk is 50% workplace comedy, 50% superhero. Yeah. I wish it was like 90% workplace comedy and 10% superhero because I think a lot of the complaints stem from expectations. The marketing was like, this is a superhero show. They had big dramatic music. The first episode, which in my opinion might be the weakest episode, is a superhero origin story. So we don't meet like her co-workers and stuff really till episode 2. And I feel like, and that's why they had to, so the finale, they're kind of digging themselves out of this hole to be like, it doesn't always have to be like this. But if you set up from the start that it's not going to be like that, like it's just jokes, it's like Parks and Rec, but in a law office, I don't think they would even have to go through all that. Which I still like the finale, but like I wish it was even more comedy, like all the stuff where it's like, here's the villain of the week or the client of the week, actually. They got some cameo or some Asgardian comes in and they've got to deal with that. Like that's when the show was at its strongest. So I actually wish the show was like way more that. And then we didn't have so many, like I don't need to see She-Hulk fight a bunch of demon bats at Wong. I'm happy if she just defends him in court,
Yeah, I wanted Harvey Birdman, attorney at law, with Jennifer Waltz. That's what I wanted. Yes, that's what I was really hoping it would be. And for the most part, no, I guess for half the part, that is exactly what we got. Right, we got Mr. Immortal and we got Wong a couple of times, and but
Leapfrog was great. I would say.
The superheroing just was not that it wasn't executed any better or worse than any other Marvel project. It just wasn't my favorite part of this series. And I think the problem that you're seeing, that kind of where they say they're dipping into different genres, but really they're just kind of a couple of maybe winks or nods to different genres. And then they're saying, see, that was our blah, blah, blah genre. I think that's been there for a long time.
Yeah.
I think Marvel gets more credit than they deserve for breaking into other genres. I don't think that's necessarily as true as people think it is.
100%. Like just off the top of my head, right? Ant-Man was meant to be a heist movie. It's like 30% a heist movie, the rest superhero film.
Right.
Probably the biggest culprit, I would say, Captain Marvel, they were billing as it's a love letter to 90s action films. It's like, no, like 3 scenes were like a love letter to like 90s action films. I would say Werewolf by Night, like this is our horror film. It's like, it's horror themed, but I'd say half of it feels like a superhero film. I do think though, like WandaVision was a faithful look at sitcoms, and I will say like Thor Ragnarok does feel more comedy than superheroes. So they're not always not, and fair enough. Guardians of the Galaxy, you could say it's a space opera. But a lot of the time, whenever Marvel promise us this is a completely different genre, like they've burnt me so many times. Like, no, it's not. It's half of a different genre.
Right. They're all kind of action comedies, basically. All of them are basically action comedies.
Basically, that actually reminds you saying that. Reminds me of something that's really eye-opening. Back in my Midnight Double feature days, I remember Zoheb and I were interviewing Raja Gosnell, who does like Scooby-Doo and Big Mama's House, bunch of films. And he said something that really opened my eyes. And he's like, oh, nowadays, like, because I kind of asked him, like, those type of films that you specialize in, there's not a lot of them nowadays. Like, what's going on? Like those sort of kids films. He goes, well, they're more like family films, right? And nowadays, family films are Marvel films. It's what the mum and dad take their kids to go see. Because, the Mummy had action and comedy as well. So it's not completely new. But it just, ever since then, like I look at Marvel so differently. And it's like, oh my God, like this is a family film. So when these fanboys are like, oh, Moon Knight's going to come out. It's going to be so dark and gritty. It's going to be like Daredevil. I was sitting there like, no, it's not. No, it's not. And
right.
It's going to have a couple extra shadows and that's it. It's still got to be PG-13,
That's absolutely correct. Like anyone who thought Moon Knight was going to come out and be this brutal R-rated, hard R, horror, I don't even know like what people thought.
Yeah.
What if Batman was rated R? Like it's kind of what I think people were expecting. And it was just never going to be that. It was, you just have to we have to divorce ourselves from that expectation forever. It's never going to be that. I will say though, the thing that's given me hope has been watching Andor on Disney Plus. Man,
that's Star Wars actually trying to be different. It's trying to be mature, right?
That's Star Wars for grown-ups, and I'm really hoping that like Marvel will do that. And the problem is that Marvel has to fit everything in so that you can believe that Moon Knight can hang out with Kamala Khan.
Yeah.
That's their big issue.
And that's always been my thing about the Venom films. I've been like, first of all, it was never going to be R, even though the marketing, they tried to say, we'll make it R. Another thing is like, there's no way Kevin Feige wants Tom Hardy's Venom to fight Tom Holland's Spider-Man, because the quality of writing, the tone, the world building, it's on such a different level. It would actually bring the Spider-Man movies down as a result.
So what I think is with Venom, if they're ever going to bring that Venom into the MCU, it's almost got to be in a Deadpool story, because I think Ryan Reynolds and Tom Hardy would be like magic on screen together. I think it would be really like perfect, and you would just get to mess with it. And then maybe Venom jumps onto Deadpool for a second, and we could see Ryan Reynolds do his Venom for a bit. Like, I think that would be a lot of fun, but I could not see him with Captain Marvel or whoever.
I got to disagree with you. I know we're way off topic, but I got to disagree with you. I don't think Tom Hardy and Ryan Reynolds would be great, because I don't think Tom Hardy's great at comedy, for starters. And I think Deadpool works when he's with a straight man, like a serious type, like Josh Brolin or something.
And that's why Tom Hardy works, because Tom Hardy's your straight man.
But in the Venom movie, okay, Tom Hardy plays a great straight man, but in the Venom movies, he's not. I feel
that's true.
He's always like, what? Right? I feel like Tom Hardy, the actor, could be great with Ryan Reynolds, the actor.
Right.
But Tom Hardy's Venom would not be great with Dev. But we're so off topic, so I apologize. Let's get back to She-Hulk. Let's talk about. I think the one that the fans love to talk about the most is Daredevil. Mm-hmm. What do you think of Daredevil in She-Hulk?
I should preface this by saying, like, I love Daredevil, and that Daredevil corner of Marvel is my favorite corner. Kingpin is my favorite character in Marvel. And I dig the street level New York stuff. And I also am a huge fan of the Netflix series. It gets a little shaky in the second season, but the third season and the first season are like perfection to me.
Yeah, the third's my favorite too.
Yeah, the Kingpin in the third one, who is just like not even like a step ahead. He's like 12 steps ahead of everyone else and has put everything like that's the Kingpin.
So good. So
yeah,
good.
God, so good. That all said, I love this iteration of Daredevil. I love the acrobatic, kind of almost swashbuckling, kind of fun Daredevil. I dig that take on the character as well. And I like that they've laid it in the groundwork that, hey, when you do see Daredevil, it's not going to be this Netflix Daredevil. It's going to be the one who can flip off buildings and who smiles every now and again. And, like it's, yeah, I on top of that, also when you see Kingpin again, because of his appearance in Hawkeye, it's going to be the Kingpin who can rip car doors off and, who is just kind of like bigger than life. Even if he doesn't technically have superpowers, he is kind of a giant gorilla. So I like that they've laid that groundwork, and I am ready for, Disney-fied, quote unquote, Daredevil. Cause I actually do like that take on the character as well.
Yeah, I agree. Like, I think it's also a lot of people, the people who do complain that he's joking, got to remember all the jokes he makes are him flirting with Jen.
Yeah.
That is not Daredevil trying to be intimidating. That's him, flirting type thing. And he would flirt and he would have jokes in the Netflix series too. So I don't think it's actually out of character for him that much. And seeing him like with some CGI doing the crazy flips and stuff. And I think, if you want to put him in the Avengers, you have to treat him like an Avenger.
Good point. Yeah, he can't just be like, and I box. It's like, okay, well, but that's Thanos. See, so so what else you got?
100%. So I do I do prefer the Netflix costume. I think the gold is a little, I don't know. I feel like with both him and Kingpin in Hawkeye, like they just wanted to give him different costumes to differentiate them. Maybe it's to sell merch or something, I don't know, or it's a new skin in some Fortnite video game or whatever.
Sure, yeah.
But when Born Again comes around, guys, we'll get the red suit. I feel confident in that. I feel like we'll get that.
Might even get the black suit.
Yeah,
we might get all of them. You never know.
It's just we're not going to get a scene like Kingpin smashing someone's head in a car door again. We're not going to get anything that dark or violent.
No one's going to impale themselves on a fence so that they can't be, their family won't get harmed. Yeah, that's not all. None of that's happening.
For sure. But I think at the end of the day, like, while the tone won't be 100% the same, I think Marvel is smart enough they'll find a middle ground. I think they'll try and find a middle ground. They'll have some callbacks. They'll do whatever. But it's going to be called they're very smart with their titles. Born Again. It sounds like a reboot. It's Homecoming.
It's exactly
coming
right.
home. Like they're very smart.
I'm also for Daredevil, 19 episodes. Like that's a long time to get into the highs and lows of tone.
To be honest, part of me is worried it might be too much because the Netflix shows was, I think, 13, if I'm not mistaken, 13 or 14.
Yeah.
And all those Netflix Marvel shows, they all had the same problem, I think, where once you get to like around episode 9, this happens in almost every show. They either get injured or they lose their powers or something. And then for like 1 or 2 episodes, they're kind of just like sitting back while everyone else takes the spotlight. And then they come back in the finale like, I've got a new costume, or I've got a new superpower, or I'm back. And it's kind of like, okay, this is getting formulaic. And once it gets to that point, it feels like it's being dragged. So I'm really scared 19 is going to be too much. I think the saving grace could be if they're not hour long, if they're half hour or 40 minutes, that might help with pacing. But I don't know. We'll see. Look, if something got like 19 episodes, I think She-Hulk would have been great for it because it's a workplace comedy. It's like a legal comedy. Like I think of like The Office. I think Parks and Rec. I think all that, and you could have more cameos. You could have more characters. But what I got to say, dude, have you ever watched the show Powerless? DC's Powerless.
Oh yeah. It was like a couple episodes that I watched. And I don't know if it lasted too much longer than that.
It got canceled after season 1. But a lot of people forget Powerless. But She-Hulk is basically a better version of Powerless. It's a bunch mostly normal guys, like they're working in like a research and development for like an insurance company or something in the DC universe. So like when the
It's
Joker,
it's owned by Wayne Industries, and I think Alan Tudyk plays Bruce Wayne's cousin or something like that.
Bruce Wayne's cousin, and it's like, oh, the Joker released laughing gas. Oh well, now I guess we have to create some sort of device that helps us protect ourselves from Joker gas, and a lot of those not cameos, but references, but that was a straight up comedy. That wasn't trying to be a superhero show.
Right.
I wanted She-Hulk to be a better version of that, and sometimes it got there, sometimes it didn't. I liked the character Titania.
Mm-hmm.
I thought she was great.
I thought she was great, but she felt kind of aimless. It's like, wait, why are you here? Like, I don't understand she just kept showing up, and it just felt like something that got lost
to something. And it didn't go there. Yeah.
To me, it felt like something that got lost when so the first episode, the origin story was supposed to be episode 8.
What?
And yes. Yeah. They weren't going to give you her origin until episode 8.
Dude, I love that. Like that fixes some of my issues, because like the expectation of it's a superhero show comes a little bit from having the first episode so superhero. So what, it was going to be like a flashback or something? Or
I guess so. Yeah. Like, I think the whole idea that, how Bruce tells her in the first episode something along the lines of, once you rage out once, you'll always be a monster to them. That is supposed to come after she's been doxxed and slut shamed and whatnot.
That makes sense.
Yeah, but you were just supposed to start with Jen Walters, who can turn into a Hulk in court. And that's why the line in the first episode where she's like, I know you guys will be distracted the whole time if I don't tell you how I got this way. So let's just get it out of the way now. Like, so that's
them again predicting what's going to happen.
Exactly.
From the fans. Okay.
But I do feel like the Titania of it all, because she just kind of why did she break into that courtroom? What happened there? Like, she just kind of feels like they just threw her in whenever they needed her to be there, but there was really almost never a reason for her to be there. And I feel like it's just something that got lost when they were shuffling all of the episodes around.
Maybe. I feel like, so I think she's in 3 or 4 episodes, but the whole episode where she's like suing for the trademark of She-Hulk, love it. Great.
Yeah.
Really fun influencer jokes. You've got the whole like wink wink nudge to like the She-Hulk and Hulk history. That's really great. But then like she comes back for the wedding, and it kind of feels like she's being set up as this rival. So I'm here thinking, oh, she's going to be a big part of the finale, and she sort of shows up, but then nothing happens. But then it's like, so what was the point of her character? It's just a reoccurring character. Like, I feel like they were trying to go somewhere, but then they dropped that plot thread.
Yes. Yeah. I feel like it might have been one of the things that got sacrificed for the fourth wall break of the finale.
Yeah.
Was because I felt, and maybe I'm just like a sucker for this kind of storyline, it felt like she was like a rival who at the end of the day is also a woman. And once she gets, once Jen gets, all her sexy info out there, and like the revenge porn stuff, it felt like, oh, this is where she's going to come and she's going to help Jen. They're gonna realize. Yeah. And I thought thought when she breaks into the barn, I was like, oh, I see where it's going. And then no, it could not have possibly predicted where it was going from that point.
I got to be honest, as cliche as it is, I would have loved it.
That's like my favorite too. Yeah. That's my favorite type of the Anchorman ending with Vince Vaughn. Like, I hate you, but God damn it, don't I respect you?
Yes. I would have been on board for that.
And then Ron Burgundy says, "Brother." It's so good. That's what I was hoping for.
Oh, how good! So you wanted her to be like She-Hulk, brother.
That would have been amazing.
No, that would have been great. Is there anything else you think that's worth highlighting or talking about, or anything that comes to mind about She-Hulk, Attorney at Law?
Yes. In terms of like the MCU of it, we now Hulk has a son. That's big.
Yeah.
That
Scar is big, and I feel like it was so shoved in there. Like, I get it. They're setting up. There's been rumors about a World War Hulk movie, and they're setting up for the Hulk's narrative. I get it, but like, he's literally there for like one shot. and it's like and they cut away so quickly, and it's like you could have done this better, or you could have. I don't know. I wasn't happy. I'm not mad. I'm not going to write an angry letter, but I feel like it was a little bit like, okay, this is the contractual agreement of setting up something for the future, like all Marvel stuff.
I couldn't believe they got an actor for that. I was like, wait, someone acted in that scene? Like, there wasn't just like a completely CGI character. Like, someone was mocapping that? That's insane.
Well, I'm actually a bit confused too with She-Hulk, because they had someone who was tall in that role, and did they just CGI Gen actor, I forget her name, sorry. They just put her face over that? Yeah, that's it. But She-Hulk wasn't fully CG, was she?
I think, if I'm not mistaken, She-Hulk was fully CG, but this actress who was like a giant was there as like a reference. She was like the reference act. And I think, that's from what I can make of it, because I've seen images of Tatiana Maslany in the mocap suit with, you know how they wear that, like the contraption that goes up like behind their neck to show like, this is where my head would be. You know, like Josh Brolin did for Thanos. I think, I've seen images of Tatiana Maslany in that suit. So
yeah,
it does appear that that's fully,
right.
I
got a laugh out of me.
Yeah. But yeah, no, the Scar, I think Scar, the reveal should have been the post-credits reveal. Yeah. Instead of something that got shoehorned into the final scene. And I think that there was there was an easier way to show that Emil is no longer in prison. And
I don't think we needed to see that at all, really. You could have just shown him somewhere else in another movie or whatever.
I mean, honestly, all you needed was the empty cell with the wormhole closing. You'd be like, oh, he's in Camertage. Got it. That's all I need. So now Camertage has Wong and America Chavez and Emil Blonsky. So they got something interesting going on there.
I feel like having Wong and Abomination, that, first of all, that's a combination I never thought I would see in my years of reading Marvel comics and stuff. But that, first of all, we didn't need that in Shang-Chi. Like, sure. I'm seeing that now. And now I'm also thinking, like, what's the point of this? And having him escape, like, I feel like this is damaging to Wong's character a little bit.
Because he's breaking people out of prison.
Yeah, and he was the Sorcerer Supreme, and I don't know. I want, in Doctor Strange 3 or whatever, I want this to go somewhere of value.
I think it's way more likely that they broke Emil out of prison so that Emil can be in the Thunderbolt movie.
Right. Yeah.
I think that's where that's going.
Oh, okay. And then in the Thunderbolt movie, they'll be like, oh, well, how'd you get this guy? Well, Wong helped us out. We called in a favor to Wong. Okay. Yeah. I see. Sure.
That.
Yeah. There we go. Spoilers for a movie that'll come out in like 5 years. I don't know. I kind of don't want to talk about it, but I just feel like we have to mention it. The Megan Thee Stallion twerking scene. First of all, like, when people got mad on the internet about that really upset me, because I'm like, guys, this is, when I see her and she's like dropping it low and stuff, I'm like, that's what my girlfriend looks like when she goes out clubbing, you know? Mm-hmm. And we have some drinks and stuff, you know, dropping it low and stuff. It's like, she's a woman having fun. This is what women do, would have fun. She Hulk for the reason, you know? She's allowed to be a woman, guys. So just calm the fuck down.
I mean, and I mean, if I was in the presence of Miss Thee Stallion, I would probably also be twerking, because if Megan Thee Stallion's like, hey, would you like to twerk with me? Be like, sure, I would love to, Megan Thee Stallion.
I would not say no.
Right. It's like, oh, no, I couldn't. What would my fans think? Like, no, you just do it. When in Rome.
That's right. When in Rome, when in a law office with Megan Thee Stallion, that's what you do.
Yeah.
Oh, God. That was a fun cameo. I enjoyed that.
I think Madison with two N's and Oh,
and
the Y and two N's, but it's not where you think. Is that what it? No,
Yes,
yeah, whatever it was.
She's still
so
on the
many.
show.
I think she's my favorite Marvel character in the MCU. I want to see the continuing adventures of Madison and Wong. I want to see them recap like Gilmore Girls. I want all of it.
Yes, she will. Like, she's coming back. She's like who was the guy who was in Ray Park's character, Jimmy Woo? Is that it?
Mm-hmm.
We're going to see more of him too. Like, when the fans latch onto something like that. And a great example is Wong. Wong was like another side character, but fans really took to him. And now, like, Wong has been in more movies than I think some of the Avengers. I think Wong has been in more movies. Yeah, I think Wong's had more appearances than freaking War Machine now, you know?
I mean, I think it's getting close to like, it's pretty much him and Samuel L. Jackson at this point, right?
Yeah. Yeah, man. Far out. That's so funny.
I love what they've done with Wong, though, because Wong in the comics is basically like, kind of like, I mean, it's come a long way since, but he's basically Alfred. Yeah. He's Doctor Strange's like manservant. Literally, that's his title. And I dig that, like, no. In the MCU, he's actually the Sorcerer Supreme.
Yeah.
That's quite the promotion.
I love that. I love that too. And I think it's also smart writing, because if you keep Doctor Strange as a Sorcerer Supreme, well, then there's no authority for him to rebel against. There's no where for him to go or to progress. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so it's good to keep him down. And I think the explanation of, well, you were gone during the snap, like, that's a great reason for him to lose it.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, so I think we're pretty much ready to wrap up on She-Hulk and move on. But I will say, is there any last comments, thoughts, anything?
No, I think it was a good series. I don't think it was by any stretch of the imagination. Was it, breaking records or what does The Rock say? Like changing the hierarchy of the MCU or whatever. I don't think it's doing anything like that, but I do think it was a good series, and I'm glad that there was a series that was able to turn the stakes down, because we need to be able to tell all of the different stories in the Marvel universe.
Yeah, I'm hoping for a season 2, and I just want it to dive a little bit more into the comedy and the workplace stuff. Maybe a little less fight scenes, a little more cameos. That'd be really cool. It doesn't. When I say cameos, it doesn't even have to be characters. It could be like, it could be Leapfrog, or just some random offshoot from from one comic that appeared back in the 1800s. I'm okay with that stuff. Yep. And yeah, I had fun with it. And I think when it comes to the comedy writing, maybe some of the funniest jokes we've seen yet, at least from the TV shows. But that's not saying much, because as much as I love Miss Marvel, there were some cringe jokes in that show, I would say. The comedy was not the strong suit of that show.